Okay, well that sucked. I was just talking about how, like, crappy it is when live streams go out. I was just talking about how crappy it is when live streams go out. I didn't touch nothing, but my little internet thing, like, icon in the corner was like, boop, internet went out. And then everyone's like, it's buffering, it's buffering. But then it seemed to come back, but it did not come back. So I'm so glad I didn't panic, because I was able to just create a new thing and then, like, repost it on Facebook, and I think I could just go ahead and repost it to Instagram and stuff. But so I used to get so stressed out. Anyways, it's still scary. It's still like, it's like, my god, you already post the link and then now you have to do everything over again. So welcome to let's do this all again, shall we? Welcome to Monday Monad, my channel about Hyperianism and interstar actualization. Tonight is Friday Night Chat, in which we will be talking about Jordon Peterson and his interesting ideas. Interesting, I say, very gracefully, contributing a lot more credit than that really deserves. But, you know, we loved reacting to things on Friday Night Chat, taking a look at what people say, picking it apart, and applying reason and logic and Hyperianism to it, and finding the talking points for interstar actualization. So I know I've said hello to everybody. I will keep the thing before, and I will do the same thing as I did last week. I will just make sure to link everything together. So thank you, everybody who is coming back. And if you know somebody who has lost their way, please help them. In fact, let's go back real quick so I can put a link in the old one. Okay, yeah. Hello. Everybody come over here. New link, new link. And then I will also put, just real quick, just because I want people to, like, be able to come back, oh no, I have to get into editor. I'll do that afterwards. But everybody should be back now. I put a link in the comments to the old video. Everything will be linked together, and if anything, it's just super annoying. So I guess it's not scary anymore. We just conquered a fear live on Friday Night Chat. When the live stream goes out, I was very fearful, and you know what? Now I just don't think I give a crap anymore. You just start another one and hope everybody comes back. So anyways, let's get into Jordon Peterson, because Jordon Peterson's going to be sharing a very interesting dream. And if you stick around till the end of the live stream, I will also share an interesting dream, because sometimes weird, provocative dreams happen, and the best we can do is be nice to ourselves about them. So, without further ado, shall we say hello to everyone again? No, I think everybody made it back, actually. No, there's no earthquake right now. Not for me. I am in a place nicely surrounded by a wall of granite. Not a literal wall, but there's very interesting... Interesting is the word for the night, I guess. But there's peculiar formations of rock in my area. So it's a little harder to hit us with earthquakes. But when they happen, man, are they crazy. So, I was saying before, Jordon Peterson has this weird way of, like, sounding like he makes sense, but then when he's just about to hit the logical point of things, he takes a quick turn and sort of spins everything to support essentially an anti-woman narrative, but we're not going to be looking at that tonight. We're just going to be looking at dreams, and we're just going to have a little bit of comedic relief because stuff is kind of hilarious. So I hope you all are ready for tonight's craziness and fun and hilarity. Let's see what people are saying. I heard somebody mention sushi before. I love it when people talk about what they're eating. I love sushi. My favorite sushi is like the Philly style sushi with cream cheese and smoked salmon. And I don't care who you are, sushi, like I have to have potato chips with it. I have to have like Lay's potato chips. It doesn't matter. Like there's just something about it that needs potato chips or like hot French fries. So Philly style sushi with Lay's potato chips. That is my favorite lunch ever. And yes, once again, please do the YouTube stuff. Do the liking of the video. Please do the sharing of the video. Please help people get back on track. And Athon's like, I got taco dip and ruffles with my sushi, Jen. Yes, honey. Yes, dear monad. Potato chips with sushi. If you all think it's crazy, try it. There's just something about the crunchy potato chips with a nice salty, like, little rolled up like bits, especially with the Philly style because it's, you know, it's got the cream cheese and the smoked salmon. I don't know, it's really good. There isn't a sushi I don't like. And it is hot and steamy. That's why I got my sweaty rag. So, we're gonna have ourselves a sensuous conversation about dreams. And we're gonna have Jordon Peterson introduce it to us. So we're gonna listen to his dream right now. I really just want to get into it. It's been like an hour. Oh my god. Let's get into this dream, and then we're going to listen to a little bit about Jordon Peterson's view about dreams. I'm going to give you the Hyperion points of it, but, you know, I don't think Jordon Peterson's going to hit the ball out of the park exactly. So, anyways, let's stop the music. I hope y'all are ready for this.
I dreamed I saw my maternal grandmother sitting by the bank of the swimming pool, which was also a river. I dreamed I saw my maternal grandmother sitting by the bank of a swimming pool, which was also a river. Her genital region was exposed dimly. It had the appearance of a thick mat of hair. She was stroking herself absent-mindedly. She walked over to me, with a handful of pubic hair compacted into something resembling a large artist's paintbrush. She pushed this at my face.
I mean, you can't, I gotta take it. His only saving grace right there in this is the fact that he just jumps right into it. Now, this is from his new audiobook, I guess, just a clip from it, but I mean, I'm like, wow, that is very, I mean, I'm not saying it's wrong. We all have weird dreams. We all don't share them in our audiobook, but we all have those dreams. I mean, but his grandmother, her genitals were exposed, but dimly? I don't understand that. The choice of wording is very weird to me. Sometimes I feel like it doesn't have to be. It's so weird how he describes things.
Into something resembling a large artist's paintbrush. She pushed this at my face.
So he's swimming in a river, and his like grandma's sitting to the side, and her like genitals are exposed, and she has lots of genital hair, and she's. I gotta start this over. Sorry.
I dreamed I saw my maternal grandmother sitting by the bank of a swimming pool, which was also a river. Her genital region was exposed dimly. It had the appearance of a thick mat of hair. She was stroking herself absent-mindedly. She walked over to me, with a handful of pubic hair compacted into something resembling a large artist's paintbrush. She pushed this at my face. I raised my arm several times to deflect her hand. Finally, unwilling to hurt her or interfere with her any further, I let her have her way.
Oh my god. Wow, okay.
Stroked my face with the brush gently and said, like a child, "Isn't it soft?"
Oh my god, this one has music.
Face and said, "Yes, Grandma, soft."
That one had music. I can't even look at the camera now, Loppy. Loppy, I can't believe this. Okay, so okay, so Jordon Peterson did that. I'm curious as to what his interpretation is. I really want to find that out. I have many questions. And perhaps I'm projecting, but his very odd take on feminine and masculine energy, and them being just kind of like a deep-rooted sort of archetype, almost like a natural thing that we have to follow as opposed to like us being creators. I mean, it almost seems pretty reflective of his relationship with feminine energy, which just comes off as a little bizarre to me. Something happened. What happened to you? What happened to you, Jordon Peterson? So I want to just look, and if you'll stick around to the end of the thing, I'll share it with you, like a weird dream. I've actually shared it with my friend Cassie, and it turned out okay. I don't know. I think it's pretty funny. Anyways, or maybe I'll do a secret live stream. Yeah, I think I'm going to do a secret live stream maybe for patrons only. And then I'll tell you about my weird dream. How about we do that? Does that sound good? Because it'll only take like a few minutes. We can just have like a tiny after party. Anyways, so now I want to just... Cassie says, that dream? Yes, Cassie, that dream. I mean, it would be really entertaining. It's a good dinner party dream. So, I want to hear a little bit about Jordon Peterson's thoughts about dreams and what they mean with this description constantly in the back of my mind. And hello, everybody who's coming in. If you missed it, rewind it. I don't know. Should we replay it? It's only a minute. I gotta hear it again.
I dreamed I saw my maternal grandmother sitting by the bank of a swimming pool, which was also a river. Her genital region was exposed dimly. It had the appearance of a thick mat of hair. She was stroking herself absent-mindedly. She walked over to me, with a handful of pubic hair compacted into something resembling a large artist's paintbrush. She pushed this at my face. I raised my arm several times to deflect her hand. Finally, unwilling to hurt her or interfere with her any further, I let her have her way. She stroked my face with the brush gently and said, like a child, "Isn't it soft?" I looked at her ruined face and said, "Yes, Grandma, soft."
Okay, I can't do that anymore. I okay. So now that we've caught everybody up, yes, dream choreography. I want to hear what Jordan Peterson says about dreams.
And so Jung
Young.
was got very interested in dreams.
Now we're talking about Carly. So this is obviously just a little clip where I just want a little peek at like just to get enough like how he thinks. Because I have many questions. I have many, many questions.
Started to understand the relationship between dreams and myths, because he would see in his clients' dreams echoes of stories that he knew because he was deeply read in mythology. And then he started to believe that the dream was the birthplace of the myth, and that there was a continual interaction between the two processes, the dream and the story, and storytelling. And well, you know, you tend to tell your dreams as stories when you remember them. And some people remember dreams all the time, like 2 or 3 a night. I've had clients like that. And they often have archetypal dreams that have very clear mythological structures. I think that's more the case with...
I don't know if... See, archetypal dreams are a little interesting. I don't know if they're necessarily mythological dreams. Maybe in some sense, but you gotta be very careful with that type of thing. Because, honestly, anything could seem archetypal. And, in a way, everything is archetypal. So I don't know what I'm saying. Moving along.
Creative, by the way, especially if they're a bit unstable at the time, because the dream tends to occupy the space of uncertainty and to concentrate on fleshing out the unknown reality before you get a real grip on it. So it's like the dream is the birthplace of thinking. That's a good way of thinking about it. And so because it's the birth...
I don't know if a dream is a birthplace of thinking, but, I mean... We're monads, right? Well, I mean, that's why we're Monday monads. So we are the birthplace of thinking ourselves. It's not our dreams. Our dreams are just our own personal realm of that we collapse into versus this one that we all collapse in together. If that makes sense. Moving right along. Luckily, this isn't long. It's only about like 15 minutes. But it's weird. See, it's not like I completely disagree with him, but it's just like, like, let me think about that a little bit more. But if you're not very well gripped on psychology or philosophy and psychology and things like that, then those who look towards him for his more political views, and especially his views on women's rights and gender issues and things like that. And hold on, I have to blow my nose. You don't want to hear it. Hold on. Anyway, so when people look to him, like when he says something about something in favor of politics or something or a political view, he sounds really smart. He seems really smart, and then people will dabble into the rest of this stuff, and they're like, "Wow, this person's really valid." Not very many people are, what am I trying to say? Not a lot of people are philosophically gripped, have any sort of like basis in philosophical anything. They only know what they know through their reality tunnel, their perception of life, which is usually religious and is heavily influenced by politics. So it's like 30% of what he says I feel like is good so far. But the rest is significantly off. I don't know. There's large components missing from there. And perhaps I'm being too critical, but that's the thing with philosophy. It's like, well, what do you mean by this? Well, what do you mean by that? What do you mean dream is the birthplace of thinking? Like, or is that just something that sounds good?
Place of thinking, it's not that clear. It's doing its best to formulate something. That was Jung's notion, as opposed to Freud, who believed that there were sensors, internal.
Oh, but there he's talking about what Jung was saying. So
that's not what Jung believed. He believed the dream
was doing its
I'm a little
best
too on fire.
to express a reality that was still
Calm down,
outside of
Jan.
fully
Settle
articulated
down,
conscious
says Loppy.
comprehension. It was,
Okay, says
'cause you
Shad.
think, look, a thought appears in your head, right? That's obvious. Bang, it's nothing you ever ask about. But what the hell does that mean? A thought appears in your head. What kind of ridiculous explanation is that? You know, it just doesn't help with anything. Where does it come from? Well, nowhere. It just
Where does it
appears in
come
my
from?
head. Okay, well, that's not a very sophisticated
What are we gonna do
explanation, as it
without
turns
men?
out, you know? And so you might think that those thoughts that you think, well, where do they come from? Well, they're often someone else's thoughts, right? Someone long dead, that might be part of it. Just like the words you use to think are utterances of people who've been long dead. And so you're informed by the spirit of your ancestors. That's one way of looking at it. And your motivations speak to you, and your emotions speak to you, and your body speaks to you. And it all does all that, at least in part, through the dream. And the dream is the birthplace of the
Sophisticated tea party, right? Okay. And I don't know who Matilda Sworn. I don't know who you are, but I don't know why you keep retracting your messages. This is a pretty low chill chat room, so I notice. I notice everything. Be warned. No, I don't. I don't notice everything. Be warned.
fully articulated idea. They don't just come from nowhere fully fledged, right? They have a developmental origin, and God only knows how lengthy that origin is. Even to say something like, I am conscious, you know, that's taken... Chimpanzees don't say that. You know, it's been 7 million years since we broke from chimpanzees, something like that from the common ancestor. You know, they have no articulated knowledge at all. They have very little self-representation in some sense, and very little self-consciousness. And that's not the case with us at all. And we had to painstakingly figure all of this out during that, 7 million year voyage. And I think some of that's represented and captured in some sense in these ancient stories, which I believe were part of, especially the oldest stories in Genesis, which is the stories we're going to start with.
Oh my goodness. He's starting with the Bible for these archetypal things. Well, I mean, sorry, at least we're noting that the Bible is a storybook. Roberta is now eating a dill pickle. I love pickles. Especially if they're fried with ranch.
That they were, that
Airplane. Sounds like a big ass truck is pulling up in front of my building.
some of the archaic nature of the human being is encapsulated in those stories, and it's very, very instructive as far as I can tell. I can give you just a quick example. There's an idea of sacrifice in the Old Testament, and it's pretty barbaric.
There's an idea of sacrament in plenty of things other than the Old Testament. I'm pretty sure, honestly, I'm getting triggered. You can't cite the Testament as the Old Testament for the only, archetypal outline of things. Offended. Anyways.
Barbaric, the story of Abraham and Isaac is a good example of that, because Abraham is called on to actually sacrifice his own son,
which is a psychotic story, by the way. I'm sorry. Let me hear a little bit more.
Doesn't really seem like something that a reasonable God would ask you to do, right?
Yeah, right.
The God in the Old Testament is frequently cruel and arbitrary and demanding and paradoxical, and which is one of the things that really gives the book life, because
No, it doesn't. Why is that scene? Why is the story of Abraham having to sacrifice his son, why is that seen as something noble? That it's psycho. It's straight up psycho. I'm sorry, it's psychotic. If you think that's a noble story of sacrifice, you are weird, and I want to know where the bodies are.
Wasn't edited by a committee, a committee that was concerned with not offending anyone, that's for sure. So,
What? Did he just like serve a supposed own?
sacrifice his own son, which doesn't really seem like something that a reasonable God would ask you to do, right? And the God in the Old Testament is frequently cruel and arbitrary and demanding and
He
paradoxical.
is.
Which is one of the things that really gives
Duh.
it life. Because
No.
It wasn't edited by a committee, a committee that was concerned with not offending anyone, that's for sure.
He just sure owned us right there. He just sure owned the people who are into accountability. Got us. Hi, own. I love how the audience laughs like, oh, righteous humor. Oh no, the main point with Peterson is don't take him at all.
So,
Do not take Jordon Peterson. He is not for Hyperians.
so Jung believed that the dream was the birthplace of thought. And I've been extending that idea because one of the things I wondered about deeply was, you have a dream and then someone interprets it. You can argue about whether or not an interpretation is valid, just like you can argue about whether your interpretation of a novel or movie is valid, right? It's a very difficult thing to determine with any degree of accuracy.
We're trying to accurately determine why your grandmother painted your face with her pubes right now, Jordon Peterson. Okay? I have a lot of questions and I need accuracy in order for me to sleep well at night, because at this point my biggest nightmare is going to be having the dream where I watch Jordon Peterson in the river/pool with his grandmother painting his face with her big bushy pubes. Thank you and good night. I need accuracy. I am Hyperion. I need more explanations. I need reasons. I need answers.
Counts in part for the postmodern critique, but my observation has been that people will present a dream and sometimes we can extract out real useful information from it that the person didn't appear to know. And they get a flash of insight, and to me that's a marker that we've stumbled on something that unites part of that person that was.
And as I said before, I feel like his weird dream has something to do with his unhealthy relationship with the feminine flow. The feminine energy is the thing that represents the archetypal feminine energy, which in his mind is strictly chaos. I don't think that's quite the case. I mean, he could label chaos, things that are chaotic, as feminine, but I think he's going to hurt himself. Yes, we're going to do this to you. This is not official, by the way. I mean, this is just my opinion. Just my opinion. But I feel like this dream of Jordon Peterson's is like a representation of his sort of like severed relationship with his feminine side, his mirror self, and perhaps a portion of his shadow self.
Wasn't united before. It pulls things together, which is often what a good story will do, or sometimes a good theory. Things snap together for you, and there's a little light goes on, and that's one of the markers that I've used for accuracy in dreams. And I know in my own family, when I was first married, I'd have fights with my wife, arguments about this and that, and I'm fairly hot-headed, and so
Yeah.
up and agitated
Yeah, no.
about whatever we were arguing about.
I just get so hot-headed. Gosh darn it. I think of that one episode of South Park. I don't know if you've seen it. It's like, I'm slapping you, silly. Don't make me slap you. I'm just gonna smack you. Smack. So I got really heated and I smacked her. Anyway, no. And going on.
She'd go to sleep, which was really annoying, so annoying. Because I couldn't sleep, right? I was like chewing off my fingernails and she'd be like sleeping peacefully beside me. It's like maddening. So, but often she'd have a dream, and then the next morning she'd discuss it with me, and then we could unravel what was at the bottom of our argument. And that was unbelievably useful, even though it was extraordinarily aggravating.
She's like, I had a dream that your grandmother painted my face with her pubes. No.
So, I was convinced by Jung. It looked to me like his ideas about the relationship between dreams and mythology and drama and literature made sense to me, and the relationship between that and art. I know this native carver. He's a Kwakwaka'wakw guy. He's carved a bunch of wooden sculptures, totem poles, and masks that I have in my house. And he's a very interesting person. Not literate, not particularly literate, and really...
I'm sorry, for somebody who really upholds, like, a traditional, like, masculine force and of energy, he just really not meet that. This Kermit the Frog shit is just not doing it for me.
He's still steeped in this ancient 13,000-year-old tradition. He's an original language speaker, and the fact that he isn't literate has sort of left him with the mind of someone who's pre-literate, and pre-literate people aren't stupid, they're just not literate, so their brains are organized differently in many ways. And I've asked him about his intuition for his carvings, and he's told me that he dreams, like you've seen the Haida masks, you know what they look like. Well, his people are closely related to the Haida, so it's the same kind of style. He said he dreams in those animals and can remember his dreams, and he also talks to his grandparents who taught him how to carve in his dreams. Quite often, if he runs into a problem with carving, his grandparents will come and he'll talk to them. But he sees the creatures that he's going to carve living in an animated sense in his imagination. And, I mean, it's not that difficult. First of all, I have no reason to disbelieve him. He's a very, very straightforward person, and he doesn't have the motivation or the guile, I would say, in some sense, to invent a story like that. There's just...
I don't know how Jordon Peterson intends to, like, interpret this guy's dreams, but if he's dreaming about his grandparents giving him advice for, carving and stuff, I feel like, as I would say as a Hyperion, and now this isn't, like, official Hyperion, like, dream interpretation stuff, like, there's no official, like, dream interpretation guide, but if I was to say, like, I feel like a lot of the times we dream about people giving us advice, and it seems like, I'm talking about, like, people like maybe a dead relative, maybe like a deity or a god or something that you believe in, something ethereal and spiritual, if you will, giving us advice. When we dream about that, it's always representative of our inner ability, our inner, what am I trying to say? Our higher self in not in a mystical new age way, in a, this is our voice of reason that we're trying to reach, that we're trying to get to. So, at least that's whenever I dream of people that I really look up to, or something like that, giving me advice, I feel like it's myself as representative as, like, my inner voice of reason, which is sometimes very quiet because our brains are very overcrowded by our daily lives and bullshit, and especially our unchecked thoughts. Anyways.
There's no reason he would possibly do it. I don't think he's told that many people about it. He thinks it's kind of crazy, you know. Said when he was a kid, he thought he was insane because he'd had those dreams all the time about these creatures and so forth. And so it wasn't something he was trumpeting. But I found it fascinating because I can see in him part of the manifestation of this unbroken tradition. We have no idea how traditions like that are really passed along for thousands and thousands of years, right? Part of it's oral and memory, part of it's acted out and dramatized, and then part of it's going to be imaginative. And people who aren't literate, they store information quite differently than we do. We don't remember anything. It's all written down in books, right? But if you're from an oral culture, especially if you're trained in that way, you have all of that information at hand, both so you can speak it, you can tell the stories, and you really know them. And, you know, modern people don't really know what that's like anymore. Doubt if there's
boring. Get on to the good stuff.
Spout from memory like a 30-line poem. You know, and poetry was written so that people could do that. That's why we have that form, is so that people could remember it and have it with them. And we don't do any of that anymore. Anyways, back to Jung.
I want
Jung was a
know.
great believer in the dream, and I noted that dreams will tell you things that you don't know. And then I thought, well, how the hell can that be? How that in the world can something you think up tell you something you don't know? How does that make any sense? First of all, why don't you understand it? Why does it have to come forth in the form of the dream? It's like there's something going on inside you that you don't control, right? The dream happens to you just like life happens to you. I mean, there is the odd lucid dreamer who can, apply a certain amount of conscious control, but most of the time you're laying there asleep and this crazy, complicated world manifests itself inside you, and you don't know how. You can't do it when you're awake, and you don't know what it means. It's like, what the hell?
Can't you? I don't know. I feel like he's just flaring up some, he's just trying to get everybody what does it mean? What does this all mean? I feel like I'm being led along. Get to the point, JP.
What's going on? And that's one of the things that's so damn frightening about the psychoanalysts, because you get this both from Freud and Jung. You really start to understand that there are things inside you that are happening that control you instead of the other way around.
They can, but when you're dreaming, you're seeing your unconscious unfold before you. And it may seem like something that you can't control, but you can control. Anybody can become lucid. Anybody can become a lucid dreamer. It's not a special gift. Some can just automatically do it. I'm one of those people. I just can automatically do it. But no, people ask me well, how do you actually get into it? And I have no idea. But from what I've heard, and what I understand, what I've observed in people who have tried and actually accomplished things, is it's much like using a muscle for the first time. Like when you work out and you lift weights. At first, it seems really awkward. It's just like you're flailing the weights all over the place. But when you concentrate and focus on form, and isolating of certain muscle groups, you can eventually strengthen that certain muscle and build upon it. And that's the same case with lucid dreaming. And the reason I'm looking down right now is because I'm trying to paint my nails. But I hope that makes sense, because anybody can lucid dream. Anybody. I've always been able to lucid dream. That's one of the things as a child I've been able to do that has led me to heavily question reality itself. It's why I've always had a very sort of existentially inquisitive nature about me. And it has led me to Hyperianism. But where was I going? Anyways, let's continue.
Reciprocal control, but there's manifestations of spirits, so to speak, inside you that determine the manner in which you walk through life, and you don't control it. And what does?
You.
Random,
You can control. You can't. It seems. I guess. Just you can control it. What does control it? You. It's so weird. It's like he just scoops around it. Ugh.
There are people who have claimed that dreams are mere.
Jordon Peterson is that boyfriend that's really terrible at finding the clit. He is. It's just really bad. You're just forget it. You just get mad. Forget it. Forget I even asked. It was rubbing your pelvic bone or something.
Merely the consequence of random neuronal firing, which is a theory I think is absolutely absurd, because there's nothing random about dreams. They're very, very structured and very, very complex, and they're not like snow on a television screen or static on a radio. Those things are
dreams. They're very complicated. They mean something. He's been building this I'm not trying to critique how he's presenting this, but it's I feel like he's constantly finding different ways to say that dreams are crazy. Yeah, we get it. Okay, so what do we do with them? What are they? What's the purpose? Because when I talk about dreams and Hyperianism, it's very, very particular. What are dreams? Then Hyperianism. Why does Hyperianism have views about dreams? Why does Hyperianism think dreams are important to look at, to observe, to journal, and to exercise in? Because dreams are a direct representation of your subconscious mind. What is your subconscious mind? It's the part of your mind that isn't very in front of your face. It's not obvious. It's like, all right, I know I like popsicles, but why do I eat 20,000 of them a day? Well, there's some underlying need for that. Emotionally, I am like deprived and I'm trying to fill the void with popsicles. I'm just throwing that out as an example of becoming aware of your unconscious mind. I think I have videos of becoming conscious and things like that in lucid dreaming. I think it's time to make another round and perhaps update some things. But I don't like so far where he's just like kind of not necessarily not getting to the point, but like I want him to get to the point faster. Get to the point faster, JP.
Complicated, and then also I've seen so often that people have very coherent dreams that have a perfect narrative structure. Now they're fully developed in some sense, and so that just doesn't. That theory just doesn't go anywhere with me.
Dreams with a narrative and a structured storyline can also be representative of your subconscious, of things you don't know about. Dreams that, and to me, there is, I mean, ooh, this is really interesting, because where's my brain going? I feel like there's a type of dream that you can have that's like, it's just bits and pieces and a collage of like stuff that's happening in your daily life, you know? And then there are dreams that I have sometimes that are a narrative. It does tell a story. Sometimes it's a ridiculous story, but it doesn't mean that because it has a beginning, middle, and end, that it actually is archetypal or archetypal, yeah. Because the dreams that I have that are archetypal, they're very serious, they're very ethereal, and they're extremely vivid, and I'm paying attention.
I just can't see that as useful at all.
Okay, no absurd. Stop using your punchline absurd. This is silly. You just stop. This is not the opportunity for you to exercise that. Enough. But thank you for coming.
Oh, and so I'm more likely to take the phenomena seriously. Say, well, there's something to dreams. Well, you dream of the future and then you try to make it into a reality. That seems to be an important thing. You know, or maybe you dream up a nightmare and try to make that into a reality, because people do that too if they're hell-bent on revenge, for example, and full of hatred and resentment. I mean, that manifests itself in terrible fantasies. You know, those are dreams, then people go act them out. These things are powerful, you know, and whole nations can get caught up in collective dreams. That's what happened to them.
Kind of like how Abraham decided to have this psychotic vision to kill his son that you were talking about earlier, that you referred to as not exactly word for word as like a noble story of like sacrifice, but you did kind of refer to it as something that was like, this is astonishing and amazing. It's like, yes, amazingly psychotic.
Nazis, that's what happened to Nazi Germany in the 1930s. It was absolutely remarkable, amazing, horrific, destructive spectacle. And the same thing happened in the Soviet Union. The same thing happened in China. It's like, we have to take these things seriously, you know, and try to understand what's going on. So Jung believed that
he is hitting on a very important point here, that a lot of people attribute too much to their dreams as factual. In a lot of cases throughout human history, people have used dreams to leverage their insane movements, and not just dreams, like hallucinations, and also perhaps daydreams or psychoses. But anyways, so there is a point there where it's important to take a look at dreams, not because they show us our subconscious, but also because so many people throughout history have utilized their dreams, and not being able to interpret their subconscious appropriately with reason to inflict a lot of harm and damage on the human race, which is still happening today. A lot of mainstream religion is responsible for this. Ugh. Oh, my sciatic nerves. Ooh. Okay.
Dream
Continuing
could
on.
contain more information than was yet articulated. You think artists do the same thing, you know, like people go to museums and they look at paintings, Renaissance paintings or modern paintings, and they don't exactly know why they're there. You know, I was in this...
What do you mean they don't know why they're
New
there?
York. I don't remember which museum, but it was a room full of Renaissance art, you know, great painters, the greatest painters, and thought maybe that room was worth $1 billion or something outrageous because there was like 20 paintings in there, you know, so priceless. And the first thing is, well, why are those paintings worth so much? And why is there a museum in the biggest city in the world devoted to them? And why do people from all over the world come and look at them? What the hell are those people doing?
What's
One of them
going
is the assumption of man.
He talks a lot in just like this way of just like, well, just think about it. What is this doing there? Why is it there? What's going on there? Why aren't people thinking? People aren't really thinking about it, but it's there. What's happening there? What's going on? It's like, yes. What's going on? I feel like that could be like summed up in a little bit, but he builds a lot of just like emotional stuff into that. Okay. What? Why is everything everything? Why is a why? Be careful with Jordon Peterson again. Like, there are some things that he talks about where it's like any other reasonable person can talk about that and say it too. So it's not like, you gotta realize that like even villains, like people that I view as villains, which I think Jordon Peterson is a villain because of the way he turns a lot of his philosophy onto women. It's not like it's 100%. You know, people aren't perfect. It's like you can have somebody who's terrible who also says some things that are good that you don't necessarily have to disagree with. So, yeah, what? You know, what? I mean, imagine what are artists? What are paintings? What are paintings? What are paintings? What are artists? What's going on here? They take images from their minds and they use my grandmother's paintbrush to paint them on the paintings. What's going on there? What's happening? Using my grandmother's pube brushes to paint pictures of humanity. Subconscious. What's happening there? I have one more fingernail to paint, and then I want to be done with the nail polish. What's happening with my grandmother's pubes on a painting? I'm assuming his grandmother has passed. Otherwise, I'm assuming his grandmother has passed. Otherwise, if I was his grandmother, I'd be like, but I think throughout his history, he was like pretty close to his grandmother. But no, dreams are important. People throughout history have had dreams influence the way they lead humanity, and that is no bueno. Oh, my sciatic nerve.
You know, beautifully painted, absolutely glowing work of art, and there's like 20 people standing in front of it looking at it and think, what are those people up to?
Painting.
They don't know. Why
with
do
my
they
grandmother's
need to go to
pubes.
New York to come and look at that painting? It's not like they know. Why is it worth so much? I mean, I know there's a status element to it too, but that begs the question. Why do those items become such high status items? What is it?
Because they were painted with your grandmother's pube brush. Sorry, I can't. Like, you can't. You can't share that with the world and not have it stick to your mind. I will never get rid of it. I'm going to die saying that. Oh.
About them that's so absolutely remarkable. Well, we're strange creatures.
Yes, we are.
So I was trying to figure out in part, well, where did the information that's in the dream come from? Because it has to come from somewhere, and you could think about it as a revelation, you know, because it's like it springs out of the void and it's new knowledge and it's a revelation. You didn't produce it, it just appears. But that's See, one of the things I want to do with this series is, like, I'm scientifically minded and I'm quite a rational person, and
Are you, Mr. Jordon Peterson? Are you rational? I have many questions. We will still look into Jordon Peterson like more and more throughout live streams, and I may just start live streaming on Mondays rather than do videos.
I like to have an explanation for things that's rational and empirical before I look for any other kind of explanation.
Ouch.
And I don't want
I
to
hit my funny
say
bone.
that everything that's associated.
I just hit my funny bone on my shelf. Oh. Oh, why? Oh, I'm so close to it. Oh, that sucks. Okay, scooting away.
With divinity can be reduced in some manner to biology or to an evolutionary history or anything like that. But insofar as it's possible to do that reduction, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to leave the other phenomena floating in the air because they can't be pinned down. And in that category, I would put the category of mystical or religious experience, which we don't understand at all. So,
Yes, we do. Yes, we understand religious and mystical experiences. Yes, we absolutely do. Their subjective experience of our subconscious is still. And even then, brains are so weird and complicated, you can easily go into a weird psychosis about anything and have, like, induce a weird spiritual experience and a hallucination. Like, where our brains can hallucinate. I'm sorry, they can. They can. Yes, we can explain that stuff. Absolutely 100%.
artists observe one another. They observe people and they represent what they see and they transmit the message of what they see to us and they teach us to see. And we don't necessarily know what it is that we're learning from them. But we're learning something, or at least we're acting like we're learning something. We go to movies, we watch stories, we immerse ourselves in fiction constantly. That's an artistic production. And for many people, the world of the arts is a living world, and that's particularly true if you're a creative person. And it's the creative, artistic people that do move the knowledge of humanity forward, and they do that with their artistic productions first. They're on the edge, and the dancers do that, and the poets do that, and the visual artists do that, and the musicians do that, and we're not sure what they're doing. Like, we're not sure what musicians are doing. What the hell are they doing? Why do you like music? You know, it gives you a deep intimation of the significance of things. And no one questions it. You go to a concert, you're thrilled. It's a quasi-religious experience, particularly if the people really get themselves together and get the crowd moving. You know, there's something incredibly intense about it, but it makes no sense whatsoever. It's not an easy thing to understand. Music is deeply patterned, and patterned in layers, and I think that has something to do with it, because reality is...
What? Where are we going? Okay, I'm sorry. We're just like... I'm not really getting a point from
Music
this.
is representing reality in some
I'll give him a minute to wrap it
fundamental
up.
way, and we get into the sway
So what are
of
dreams?
Participate in being, and that's part
Can
of
tell
what
you.
makes it
What
such
is
an
it?
uplifting experience. But we don't really know that's what we're doing. We just go do it, and it's nourishing for people, right? I mean, young people in particular, lots of them live for music. It's where they derive all their meaning, their cultural identity. Everything that's nourishing comes from their affiliation with their music and is part of their cultural identity. So that's an amazing thing. The question still remains, where does the information in dreams come from? And I think where it comes from is that we watch the patterns that everyone acts out. We've watched that forever, and we've got some representations of those patterns. That's part of our cultural history. That's what's embedded in stories, in fictional accounts of the story between good and evil, the bad guy and the good guy, and the romance. You know, these are canonical patterns of being for people, and they deeply affect us because they represent what it is that we will act out in the world. And then we flesh that out with the individual information we have about ourselves and other people. And so it's like there's waves of behavioral patterns that manifest themselves in the crowd across time. The great dramas are played on the crowd across time. And the artists watch that, and they get intimations of what that is, and they write it down and they tell us, and then we're a little clearer about what we're up to. You know,
So his interpretations of like where dreams come from is something along the lines of it's still subconscious, it's still mind, but it's teetering on more of like, I feel like a materialistic thing where it's just like, this is like, you know how before I said like there's a difference between like dreams that are very deeply like archetypal and dreams that are just like a sort of collage of your daily life. From what he's saying, it seems like he's saying that archetypal dreams are just a more elaborate collage of what you are observing, and it's deeply woven, and there's waves of complicated patterns there. So you see what I mean, where it's like, yes, I don't know, but it still begs the question, why is he dreaming about his grandmother's pubic hair? I have never dreamt about my grandmother's pubic hair. But Jordon Peterson has some weird ideas. So here he is talking about the difference between why men and women are different with Ben Shapiro, which is definitely garbage, 100%. So I don't know. Jordon Peterson is weird.
Yeah, well, I mean, the gender issue is really an interesting one, because one of my professional domains of expertise is individual differences. I'm a personality psychologist, and so I know the gender difference literature. And
what is gender difference?
Solid literature. Well, first of all, it's very solid. It has a 30-year history. Once psychologists got the personality models down, so that would be the Big Five model, all empirically derived, straight statistics, right? Brute force empiricism. Nobody had a theoretical axe to grind with the Big Five, except to say, maybe there are human traits, maybe they're encapsulated in language. We can use statistical techniques to find out what they are. That was it. That's the whole ideology. So very, very neutral as far as ideologies go. 5 traits emerge. Okay. Are there differences between the sexes? Turns out there are. All right, they're not massive, although if you sum them across all the traits, you can separate men and women with about 75% accuracy. So it's not trivial, but you have to sum across all the traits. Then another question comes
Based
up.
on what?
Well, are those differences sociocultural or biological? Okay, we can test that. We'll go around the world, we'll look at cultures, we'll rank order them in terms of the gender equality of their sociological policies. We can do that with broad agreement from the right and the left. Then the hypothesis would be, if gender differences decrease among more egalitarian societies, then the gender differences are sociocultural, or at least more sociocultural. That's exactly the opposite of what was found repeatedly. That's pseudoscience. It's like, no, that's mainstream psychology. Those papers have thousands of citations, and the average humanities paper has 0 citations, right? And then the next most common one has 1. 3,000?
What? Where?
That's an unbelievable classic.
I love how Ben Shapiro's just like, he doesn't know what the fuck is going on. He has no clue what is happening right now, like, at all.
Get a rebound, and they'd get even, like, the kids would rebel. That could easily happen. But let's say, okay, you could. The problem with that is that if you cede that much power to the state, like, you're basically giving the state the right to socialize your kids.
Right.
It's like, you really? Really? You really want to do that? I mean, the people in Israel couldn't do that with the kibbutzes, right? It didn't work. So people aren't going to give up their children to the state, and thank God for that.
Well, I mean, this is one of the big questions that we were discussing earlier, is that we were talking about the polarization in politics between right and left, and obviously you're a psychologist, you're a philosopher, but you've been dragged almost kicking and screaming into this political sphere because everything has been so politicized. And so when
he has not been dragged kicking and screaming into the political sphere. And if he's been dragged kicking and screaming, is he kicking and screaming right in front of Ben Shapiro, the political dipshit, right now? Like, what is happening?
you say, when you cite social science statistics, and they're scientifically based, you're called a racist, you're called a sexist, you're called a homophobe, and
called Milo Yiannopoulos.
Exactly. So why is it that why do you think it is that so many folks on the left who purport to be all about reason and science and objective fact are so willing to throw those out the window the minute that it becomes politically inconvenient for them?
Well, because you imagine that cognitive system, so an interpretation of the world, has levels. They're axiomatic levels. Some fundamental presuppositions are more fundamental than others. And you could say, well, the left...
This is boring. All right. Whatever. I think I've had enough of Jordon Peterson. But anyways, dreams and archetypal dreams, I mean, I guess there's a difference. They can be interwoven. They're very complicated. There's no handbook on dream interpretation. The most important thing that you can do is interpret your dreams rationally, so that when you have manifestations in your dreams of God telling you to sacrifice your only son and kill them, you might want to question that. You might want to wake up and say, gee, I don't think that's a good idea. I think that's rather unreasonable. And go with that voice instead. The voice of reason is something that can be accessed by anybody. And even as somebody who grew up myself as like a religious, emotional thinker, I am learning to think more rationally. And you can do it. It's much like I explained before. When you can start becoming a lucid dreamer and start controlling your dreams, start taking more out of them with the interpretation and what they mean in terms of your subconscious. But like that, you can start thinking rationally by practice. It's like a muscle. It's like something that seems really weak and awkward at first. But the more you do it, the more you speak out rationally and analyze things rationally, the better you get at it, the stronger those skills become. But if you sit around and you don't do much and you just take things for granted, that's not going to be good for you. So, anyways, let's turn our music back on. Oh, wait, no, I gotta find the, I gotta find the thing. No, I don't want you to see my data stream. Jesus Christ. No, this one. This one. Done. Thank you. What do we do without men? Jordon Peterson. What do we do without men? The hell are we gonna do without men? I think that one's like my favorite one. I think it's this one. Is this the one?
I see a backlash against masculinity, and a sense that there's something toxic about masculinity.
What is this idea of being over? Why?
No, it's not that one. Listen to this.
What the hell are we going to do without men?
Yes.
You look around the city here, you see all these buildings go up. These men, they're doing impossible things. They're under the streets, working on this.
What the hell are we gonna do without men? Men are doing impossible things. They're working up in buildings. They're building bridges.
Sewers. They're up on the power lines in the storms and the rain. They're keeping this impossible infrastructure functioning. This thing that works in a miraculous manner. They work themselves to death.
To
And
death.
often literally. The gratitude for that is sorely lacking, especially among the people who should
Oh
be
my
most
God.
grateful. You see university professors, especially of the social justice bent, they take everything they have for granted.
The hell are
failing
we
to
gonna do with
understand
you,
entirely
man?
that there's a massive infrastructure of unbelievably hardworking, solidly laboring, working
my
class
God.
men
Just
breaking themselves in half on a regular basis, making sure that everything that always breaks works.
so I just the thing about Jordon Peterson's like views about like men is no ASMR, sorry, no ASMR for you. But the thing about Jordon Peterson about men and women is that he's very fixated on the sort of I don't know, he's very clever in a way about villainizing critical views about masculinity. So in his mind, like, feminism is completely attacking, or, you know, women's rights is completely diminishing and attacking masculinity. He really puts masculinity on a pedestal, which is why I said earlier, I think it's funny because he's not really a good prime example of the masculinity that he upholds. So I don't know, like, why he has to get into defend keep masculinity like that. But no, his whole, like, what are we gonna do without men? They build bridges and things like that. Like, he's really against this idea of toxic masculinity. Now, there's plenty of examples and things and an understanding of what positive masculinity is, and I rarely see him, like, talk about that in a more, I don't know, a less, like, mainstream way, because it's just, again, I say, it's like it's like, well, Jordon Peterson just gets dragged into the political sphere. He does not get dragged into the political sphere. He dips into it with his ridiculous ideas. And what's getting harder and harder, and a little bit harder for me personally, is avoiding the political sphere. When we're talking about the future of humanity, you're gonna get into politics. And it's something that I've actually been working really hard at lately. But I don't want to talk politics tonight. I want to thank you all for coming to my little bit about Jordon Peterson. Now, if you are a patron of mine and you have access to the secret Discord server, I am going to be posting a link in that Discord server. We are going to go live for just a little bit for patrons only, and I'm going to tell you about my weird dream that I had before we sign off for the night. So, for those of you who are patrons, and if you want to become a patron and join us, go to http www.patreon.com. I said, what is my link? Let me find it. Oh my goodness. Hi, Jan Erickson. Great. Patreon.com/Jan Erickson official. Okay. That. So, if you would like to hear my weird dream, which does not include my grandmother's pubic hair on my face, but it is rather provocative, so please join me there if you want to hear the dream. Otherwise, say goodnight. Say goodnight, Loppy. Good night, everybody. Thank you for joining me. Perhaps I will start live streaming on Mondays earlier in the day. I'm still undecided about that. We'll see. But something will definitely be coming out this Monday. So good night, everybody. Take care. And patrons that have Discord access, please join me over there. I will be posting the link in the Discord chat. So goodbye, everybody. Goodbye. Say goodbye, Loppy.